I used to be a Weird Warriors kid. Now I'm a Weird Warriors adult. Each week I'm discussing a chapter of the iconic books by Aaron Hunter. My name is Charlie, and in today's episode I will be talking about Prophecies Begin, Book 1, Into the Wild, Chapter 24. Join me on this adventure into the world of warrior cats. Before I dive into this episode, a quick reminder that if you'd like bonus content, comment section access, and spoiler extended versions of each episode, you can subscribe for just $5 a month on Substack. Now on with the episode. I have in my notes from last week that I want to look up the differences between different kinds of lands because I hadn't realized that ShadowClan was a bog when I was reading these books growing up. So I want to look up like wetland versus bog versus swamp, that type of thing, to really get an idea of what ShadowClan is like. So wetland versus bog versus swamp. Oh, and marsh. That was kind of auto-filling. And we're not going to use the AI answer. Let's find an actual source. So classification and types of wetlands. U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. It's EPA.gov. Okay, so there are types of wetlands. So a bog is a wetland, but not all wetlands are bogs. Okay, so marshes are defined as wetlands frequently or continually inundated with water, characterized by emergent soft-stemmed vegetation adapted to saturated soil conditions. There are many different kinds of marshes, ranging from the prairie potholes to the Everglades, coastal to inland, freshwater to saltwater. All types receive most of their water from surface water, and many marshes are also fed by groundwater. Nutrients are plentiful, and the pH is usually neutral, leading to an abundance of plant and animal life. We have divided marshes into two primary categories, non-tidal and tidal. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next, which is swamps. A swamp is any wetland dominated by woody plants. There are many different kinds of swamps, ranging from the forested red maple swamps of the Northeast to the extensive bottomland hardwood forests found along the sluggish rivers of the Southeast. Swamps are characterized by saturated soils during the growing season and standing water during certain times of the year. The highly organic soils of swamps form a thick, black, nutrient-rich environment for the growth of water-tolerant trees such as cypress, Atlantic white cedar, and tupelo. Some swamps are dominated by shrubs such as buttonbush or smooth alder. Plants, birds, fish, and invertebrates such as freshwater shrimp, crayfish, and clams require the habitats provided by swamps. Many rare species, such as the endangered American crocodile, depend on these ecosystems as well. Swamps may be divided into two major classes depending on the type of vegetation present: shrub swamps and forested swamps. Okay. Then we have bogs, which is apparently what ShadowClan is. Bogs are one of North America's most distinctive kinds of wetlands. They are characterized by spongy peat deposits, acidic waters, and a floor covered by a thick carpet of sphagnum moss. Bogs receive all or most of their water from precipitation rather than from runoff, groundwater, or streams. As a result, bogs are low in the nutrients needed for plant growth, a condition that is enhanced by acid-forming peat mosses. There are two primary ways that a bog can develop. Bogs can form as sphagnum moss grows over a lake or pond and slowly fills it, terrestrialization, or bogs can form as sphagnum moss blankets dry land and prevents water from leaving the surface. Polludification. Over time, many feet of acidic peat deposits build up in bogs of either origin. The unique and demanding physical and chemical characteristics of bogs result in the presence of plant and animal communities that demonstrate many special adaptations to low nutrient levels, waterlogged conditions, and acidic waters, such as carnivorous plants. This is fascinating. Anyway, that is our environmental lesson for the day. Well, we might look up a couple more things in a moment, but the chapter art for chapter 24 is the two cats with the moon behind them, and Yellowfang leads the way into the bracken, and Whitestorm and the others follow her. Now, I wanted to look up what bracken is, and bramble is also something that's mentioned shortly after that, so I want to look up bracken and bramble. So, bracken. Okay, wait, this is seeming familiar. I feel like I might have already looked this up in a previous episode. I kind of feel like I want to start having a document for myself, or maybe I'll figure out a way to share it on the Substack, I'm not sure, but a document that has all these images as a reference, so I can kind of use that to go back to instead of having to Google each individual thing every time. And that will also be helpful because it will almost be like a vision board of what the world of warriors looks like. But anyway, it kind of looks like a fern to me. Yeah, oh, it is a kind of fern. Okay. And then bramble. Oh, that kind of looks like mulberries or blackberries. I did not realize bramble bushes had berries. I knew they had thorns because I feel like they're described that way, but I did not realize they have the berries. That is very fascinating. I also did not picture them as having leaves. I just pictured them as being just these brown, thorny vines, basically. Interesting. But now let's get into the actual content of this chapter. So, Yellowfang guides them to a small hollow surrounded by thick undergrowth and pointed out the entrance to the ShadowClan camp. So I guess they do have some undergrowth surrounding it, but still, I don't feel like that's very much protection. And it actually does say that the tangled mass of brambles looked very different from the neat gorse tunnel that led into the ThunderClan camp. And it had holes and gaps and the stench of rotting meat. And Greypaw asked, "You eat crow food?" And Ashfur explains that their warriors don't hunt, they just battle. So I was thinking, oh, maybe this is just a thing under Broken Star's rule that he forces them to only battle and just eat prey that's already dead, basically being scavengers. But no, since Ashfur is explaining this, it sounds like it's just a normal thing even from before they were kicked out and before Broken Star was ever leader. But that's really weird because isn't the whole point of Broken Star's attacks on the other clans so that they can have access to the hunting grounds of all the clans because they're starving? That's confusing to me. You'd think they would just steal the prey that's already been killed by the other clans rather than stealing their territory altogether, because then they'd still have to hunt, and they don't hunt. So, I mean, the logic already was not logicking, but now it's not logicking even more. But Yellowfang tells ThunderClan to hide near some toadstools that will hide their scent, which also seems like a weakness of ShadowClan for them to have these plants right by the entrance of their camp that hides the scents of other cats. Like already, just being in ShadowClan territory alone made it hard for Firepaw to smell any scent of another cat and recognize it. But for there to be further these toadstools that could hide your scent even from a well-trained ShadowClan nose, it's concerning that they're just letting those plants be there, or that they built their camp near such a plant that could hide an enemy cat from their detection. It just strategically does not make sense. But it is what it is. So they wait, and also it said earlier Firepaw was tingling with excitement, and then here it says that Graypaw was panting with suppressed excitement. Why are they excited? I would be terrified if I was in their position, because ShadowClan has been built up to this point to be a huge, intimidating threat. They stole their kits and they killed their medicine cat. And they force kits to be warriors. And even though they're going into this knowing that they have a strategy and a plan, and that not all of the cats in ShadowClan are 100% loyal to Broken Star, they only fear him. And even though they know that ShadowClan is weaker than they've made themselves out to be to the other clans, like, I would still be scared. Like, this is not their first battle, I guess, because they were attacked earlier by ShadowClan, but I think this is their first time, like, attacking another clan. I think it definitely is for Firepaw. I don't know about Graypaw, but, like, this is serious. Why are you excited? I mean, maybe they're excited, like, oh my gosh, our first attack on another clan, but, like, I would not be excited to be attacking someone, even if they deserved it. I don't know. That could get into a whole moral philosophy conversation. We'll get into that moral dilemma more later in this chapter, actually. But anyway, then they hear yowling from inside the ShadowClan camp, and that, I guess, is their signal to enter the camp. And they see Yellowfang and the 3 ShadowClan elders wrestling with 6 ShadowClan warriors. They're a bit outnumbered, but thankfully the ThunderClan cats are joining them. Among the cats that are fighting against our heroes' team are Broken Star and Blackfoot. Now, I wish we had seen the scene of the ShadowClan elders bringing in Yellowfang as prisoner into the ShadowClan camp and seeing what they said and how they sparked the battle. Like, I know we knew what their plan was already, but we are a bit limited by Firepaw's first-person perspective here. But in a visual adaptation, they could easily switch over to Yellowfang's point of view, or just a third-person point of view, seeing this happen. I guess for Firepaw, it's not a first-person perspective because it's not saying I, it's third-person limited. I'm trying to remember these terms from English class, but it's limited because we don't get other cats' thoughts and stuff. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that it'd be cool to just see that quick scene. It would build up more suspense and tension rather than just being the cats waiting in the bushes. Like, you know, it'd be cool to see the actual confrontation start. But White Storm signals for ThunderClan to attack, and Firepaw puts up a really good fight against a silver tabby. Even though the cat grips him with his sharp claws, Firepaw is able to sink his teeth deep into the cat's flesh. Lovely! And he goes deeper and deeper, and then the warrior finally runs away. I wonder who this silver tabby is. Like, every time they describe a cat without saying their name, I just want to know who it is. But then a young ShadowClan apprentice tries to attack Firepaw, and it's still a kitten. So Firepaw sheaths his claws and just shoos him away and tells him, "This is not your battle." And White Storm fights Blackfoot off until he runs away into the forest. Firepaw hears Dawncloud warning him about Clawface just as he gets hit by the cat. And of course, Firepaw gets very angry and does have a bit of bloodlust in him. He fights him back very well. This warrior that killed Spotted Leaf, he presses his head into the dirt and prepares to sink his teeth into his neck. But before he can kill him, White Storm knocks Firepaw away and tells him ThunderClan warriors do not kill unless they have to. We just need to let them know not to show their faces here again. And he leaves Clawface with a bite that sent him screaming out of the camp. Just picturing a cat screaming, like in an animated adaptation, I feel like it could come across as a comedic moment, possibly, but also maybe a bit of tension relief after that intense moment of Firepaw wanting to kill him. But I don't know if they ever use the word screaming to describe what the cats do ever again. Like they screech, they yowl, but screaming feels like a very human verb. So we'll see if they ever use that word again. But that is the other moral question I was talking about, is like, does any person, or in this case, cat, deserve to die? And I'm just going to leave that question open because it is a question, and that's that. So now all of Broken Star's warriors are gone. I'm trying to count them. So Clawface, Blackfoot, and that Silver Tabby were fought off. It said there were 6 warriors fighting them. So if we include Broken Star, there's 2 others that are unaccounted for. Maybe they were fought off and Firepaw just didn't see it happen. But the last one left is Broken Star, who is fighting Yellowfang. But he's not really putting up much of a fight because he's actually being flattened beneath Yellowfang's powerful grasp. But then we get the reveal of, I never thought you would be harder to kill than my father, snarled Broken Star. And Yellowfang flinches away and looks stunned. You killed Ragged Star? You found his body. Didn't you recognize my fur between his claws? He was a soft and foolish leader. He deserved to die. Wow. So we know Broken Star's stance on if any cat deserves to die. And his father, no less. Now, I did discuss this in a previous episode, how I thought Broken Star killed his own father. I am confused, though, why he's dropping this truth. And Yellowfang also asks, and Bright Flower's kits, did they deserve to die too? And Broken Star pins Yellowfang belly down, and she doesn't fight back because she's so sad at this news that she's receiving. And Broken Star says, those kits were weak. They would have been no use to ShadowClan. If I hadn't killed them, some other warrior would have. And then we hear a black and white ShadowClan queen wail with grief. It's implied that she is Bright Flower. I don't know why he's revealing this. He could just continue to lie. I guess he knows he's about to lose, so he just is fine with being hated by everyone now. I don't really know. But he also tells Yellowfang that he should not have let her leave ShadowClan alive. And he's about to give her a killing bite to the neck when Firepaw jumps onto his back and pulls him off of Yellowfang. And even after all of this battling and everything, and it described earlier how beat up Broken Star looked, he twists around in midair to land on his feet, which I guess there's this saying, cats always land on their feet. But still, like, that's very impressive, even after all that he's been through. Broken Star says, don't waste your time, apprentice, and he reminds Firepaw that he's a leader, and so he has 9 lives. And Firepaw has no idea how he would be able to defeat him. But slowly, the ShadowClan cats start to walk forward, hissing at Broken Star. And even though they're half-starved and battered as well, they definitely outnumber Broken Star. It's 1 against a lot. And Broken Star says, this is an over apprentice to Firepaw. I think it's interesting that he calls him apprentice. I don't even know if he knows his name. I don't know if he knows that Firepaw was a kitty pet. Otherwise, I feel like he'd be calling him Kitty Pet instead. But this is also like a threat that he will appear again. And then Broken Star leaves the camp. And then they remember the kits. And they find them buried in a pit under some leaves and twigs. And they pull them out. And I don't remember how many there are, but one of them is a little tabby with a nasty wound on its ear that Yellowfang hurries over to take care of with the help from Running Nose. And it says that the last kit was gray like the embers of an old fire. Nightpelt expresses gratitude for ThunderClan's help, but she says it is time you left our camp and returned to your own. I promise your hunting grounds will be free of ShadowClan warriors as long as we can find enough food in our own territory. And then Whitestorm says something interesting. He says, hunt in peace for 1 moon, Nightpelt. ThunderClan knows you need time to rebuild your clan. When he says hunt in peace for 1 moon, that's weird to me. Is he saying, like, we understand that the corruption is gone now, so we're not going to retaliate for all that ShadowClan has done to us because we just collaborated on bringing justice to the situation and resolving it? Or is he saying that just in general, the clans are always basically at war, so you get 1 month apiece and then we're back at it again? Like, I don't know. Like, is he saying they're having a 1 month truce? I don't know. It was just worded weirdly. I feel like it should be more like an indefinite peace between them, not with a time limit. Because now they have no reason to be fighting, right? But then Whitestorm asks Yellowfang if she's going to stay with ShadowClan or go back with ThunderClan. And she says, I will make the journey back with you. You will need a medicine cat for yourself as well as your kits. Because Whitestorm has a wound himself on his leg. And he thanks Yellowfang. And then the ThunderClan warriors and apprentices with their new medicine cat, Yellowfang, and their retrieved kits head back to ThunderClan. And that is the end of chapter 24. Oh my god, we have 1 more chapter left in this book. Wow, this is so exciting. That was a really good chapter. Yeah, I don't know if I have much else to say. So I'll see you next week. More like you'll see me. Remember, if you want access to extra stuff, you can subscribe for just $5 a month on Substack. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. This has been Into the World of Warrior Cats.